Parliament, and the best person to do that for us is Komla Kluche. He is our official parliamentary correspondent for TV3 and for Media General, and so he's here this morning, and a lot has happened from Carlos Ahenkorah, by the way, the MP for Tema West, and his interview with Komla Kluche, and subsequently the press release that was put out indicating that, you know, the interview was edited some way, somehow, and a few other things as well that have happened. And so he's here to tell us all about it. Good morning.
Morning, Bella. How are
you doing, Carlos's bestie?
You can't complain. It's fine. well.
I'm sure you're his bestie right now.
I haven't seen him since that interview. I'm sure probably he is looking for me, but I'm sure if he really wanted to talk to me, I'm sure he would have been able to reach out to me because the channels are there. He can always reach out to me even on my cell phone or any other means. But I'm not even too sure if there's a practice. He has issued a statement. I mean, if you have a problem with any story, the channels are there. You can explore maybe a disclaimer. You can issue a right of reply. And maybe at best, maybe the NMC is where you go. I'm not in any way suggesting that you should go to them. No, I'm just saying the channels are there. If he really quote unquote, he has missed me, I'm sure he should be able to find me.
He probably will meet you in Parliament again, I'm sure you'll have a discussion. But where did all of this start from?
So the week started on Tuesday when the House met, and we knew that the minority has had, if you like, a backlog of issues they had wanted to clear. Mind you, on the Wednesday, that's last week Wednesday, when the minority leader had attempted to get the House to reverse the decision regarding the approval of the budget. And then subsequently the First Deputy Speaker, Joe Say, had declined it. The contention came on Tuesday, whether or not indeed there was a decision, there was a ruling, and there was a motion. So in the correction of votes and the proceedings, which are the official documents of the House, the minority had raised issues regarding it. I recall the deputy minority whip Ahmed Banda, who raised concerns about it on Tuesday, and the second deputy speaker said, okay, we had not gotten there yet. Then they had gone through the votes and the proceedings for Thursday, which sitting lasted for only 4 minutes. Last week, Thursday, because it was a day before the Farmers' Day. So because of the contention and the confusion in the House, both sides had resolved that they would come on the Thursday. This was after the lengthy meetings they've been holding, both the caucuses, the leadership, and all that. So they came back and then decided that, okay, we'll only go, and then the speaker walks in, he says the prayer, then he will just adjourn the sitting. So in calculation, we timed it. It was specifically 4 minutes.
I see.
And then after that, they all agreed. Members in the chamber were very, very few, though. So just after the proceedings, or the correction of the proceedings, then Joe Wise had gone in that he wanted to correct the records of the House, which indicated that he did not give a ruling. Which was captured by the table office or the clerks. So, and this is normally the practice. I mean, any meeting that you go and there is minutes, when you come back to the following one, they need to do inputs, the correct if there was some misrepresentation and all that. So Joe Wise then said that the caption or the wording of the table office in the votes and the proceeding was that he attempted to give a ruling, but because of the uproar, he did not give a ruling. So, and when he said that, the minority leader rose to his feet and said it was a true reflection of what had transpired on the Wednesday. But he said no, he gave a ruling and he dismissed the application. In fact, the contention also was whether the minority filed a motion. And in filing the motion, it was seconded by Mahama Yariga.
Okay.
All of this was pointed out to the first deputy speaker, who insisted and said, no, that was not a true reflection of it, and that if the minority had issues with it, they know the channels that they can use to get their issues addressed. Then the minority leader served notice on him that he was going to challenge his conduct as a first deputy speaker. In fact, he went frontally brutal, telling him that his conduct of the House leaves a lot to be desired, and that he had the intention of filing that motion soon thereafter.
Okay.
Later in the day, he had to file it, and there's a story subsequent to it. I'm sure the back office is
Let's see if that can be played. But as we wait for that as well, I mean, we'll just fast forward to your interaction with Honorable Carlos Ahenkorah as we wait for that video to play. And I mean, was it that same day, or this was this week? You spoke to him this week?
This was just 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Today's Friday, so it was on Wednesday.
Wednesday, exactly.
Yes,
that is when you spoke to him.
Of course. So we got to Parliament, and I mean, speaking to you now, despite the contention between the minority and the majority over the budget issues, they have started with committee sittings or meetings to look at the estimates in the budget. Okay,
I'll let you hold on with that because the other video is ready, so we don't lose our train of thought. So let's take a look at that quickly, and we'll come back and continue the conversation about Honorable Carlos Ahenkorah.
Mr. Speaker, we are guided by the public good, and we think that monies recoverable from the Auditor General report can as well compensate for the imposition of an E-levy. So, Mr. Speaker, we on this side, we are unable to support government in its quest to impose an E-levy at 1.75% on Momo and associated transactions, including remittances and bank transactions. Therefore, we stand opposed, and at every level that E-levy is introduced, we will stand united to oppose it, because it will inflict hardships on the core poor of the Ghanaian people. We are of the view that the whole essence of democracy is not to shut the door, but to open it up for continuous engagement. Mr. Speaker, having said this, I would want to assure our colleagues on the other side that we may be emotional at times, we may disagree and be at each other's throats at times, but in the final analysis, we are ready to work together for the sake of Mother Ghana.
All right, so this was after the finance minister's
absolutely. So
press briefing.
They needed to move on with respect to the concessions. The minority, you recall, were demanding a
0.5?
No, the press release that they had.
Oh, okay,
which
the
are
five conditions that they
the
set.
conditions.
Yes.
They said they wanted it documented, and the documented meant that the Minister of Finance should write to the Speaker officially. So at the press conference, the Finance Minister indicated that he wrote, and in fact, we cross-checked, we had the document that yes, indeed, he checked. But the minority leader wanted the document laid on the table. That is the procedure. So they laid it, and he asked that it should be read because he wanted to know exactly what it was. So they could give a reaction to it. It was read out to him, and then he gave the reaction that irrespective of the fact that one, the courtesy defense thing has been added, there's the
ACA deal review,
benchmark, the ACA deal, and the rest have all been considered, in exception of the E-levy, which is the albatross now. For them, it's a complete no. That it's either one, the E-levy is scrapped entirely, don't introduce it, or they are not approving, or they are not going to give a backing to the budget, and this was the point he was trying to make forcefully. But mind you, he had said days back that with his understanding, listening to experts and the deputy, the minister, and then others, he was convinced that so and so. But I mean, he's had a backlash, so he came back on this. Then after this was when he had served notice that they were going to challenge the conduct of the speaker.
Let's take a look. That video is ready. Take a look at that.
In the previous day, as the Honorable Osei Mensah made reference to the Constitution and standing orders, his have been recognized in the votes and proceedings. What is good for the goose must be good for the gander. I want this because, Mr. Speaker, you are yourself a lawyer. Authoritatively, parliamentary debates have become a guide to interpretation beyond the British ruling in pepper and hat. And therefore, we know that reference to the Constitution and reference to our standing order must at all times be respected. So I have a difficulty with the directive that you are giving the table, because as far as we are concerned, I moved the motion. The motion was seconded by the Honorable Mama Yarga. When the debate, as recorded, the debate concluded.
Whether the minority leader thinks that I was not entitled to rule is another matter. But what I'm saying here is that I ruled.
Let me serve you notice, Mr. Speaker, that under Order 93.5, I will file a motion to question your conduct as Speaker or as member for Bekwai, wherever it's appropriate, because this directive you are given does not, and we ourselves will call the recording for scrutiny, and we'll look at it closely, because as far as we know, Mr. Speaker, you are tempted to rule, and there was an uproar, and there was a suspension, and subsequently an adjournment. That is all we know. So, Mr. Speaker, I intend to invoke Order 93.5 that I'll serve you, I'll submit your conduct, because you cannot operate with these standing orders.
And so that is the minority leader, Haruna Idris, Honorable, by the way, and of course he was discussing, the conduct of the first deputy speaker. We'll move on now to Carlos Ahenkorah. You were telling me about that earlier.
Yes, but before I get to Carlos, he actually filed the motion, but the rules of the House is that at least the motion must be open, a debate for it must be opened at least 48 hours. It's been more than 48 hours. We haven't heard anything. But mind you, it is also at the discretion of the speaker to admit it. Herein, the speaker who is in town is Joe Wise. The speaker himself is still on the medical leave, so he's not back. So now it's at the discretion of Joe Wise to accept it or otherwise. So we are yet to actually get a response. As of yesterday, the minority leader was not available to make a comment. I'm not sure if it's today they are going to go into it. We'll still await.
Wait and see. I mean, how long does it take really until the motion maybe is dismissed because the speaker did not admit it?
In terms of admissibility, yes, he needs to admit it. If it's admitted, then it now comes to the plenary where he will move the motion and then it has to be seconded. Then there will be a debate from both sides before they take a decision on it. Then we moved on to the Wednesday. We're looking for stories. I mean, the E-levy contention is there. Of course, Carlos Ahenkorah, a former deputy Trade Minister, also the chairman of the Trade and Tourism Committee in Parliament. We had approached him, a group of journalists, we approached him and said we wanted some insight into this E-levy thing, the fact that the minority said they were rejecting it, and the cross-section of Ghanaians also said that they were rejecting it. And he agreed to grant us an interview. And this was what he had said. I mean, it was quite a lengthy interview, but towards the end of it, he had said, I'm sure we've got that soundbite.
Yes, we have. So this is the first one that he
This was the very first one, which was also live
Okay.
on First Take with Jifa Bampo.
Okay, let's listen to that, and then we'll later take a look at that one-on-one interview that Komla Kluche had with him.
We're waiting for this woman to contribute something small to the kitty. At least she will send some momo to her hometown for them to pay someone for her. The guy who is selling grass cutter there will send something small to the hunter to buy bullets. Government will take 1.75% of that money. So it will give us the opportunity to make all these people pay a little bit of money.
And
finally, it is not a compulsory tax. If you don't do momo, you don't pay. So if you don't want to pay, don't do momo.
And he spoke to Jifa Bampo on First Take on 3FM 92.7, and this is exactly what he says. If you don't want to pay, don't do momo. As simple as that. And you even spoke to him again.
So after this,
that.
because that was a radio interview and the camera was upstairs doing a recording inside the chamber, I had to call the cameraman to come down.
Okay.
He came down when, I approached him again and we said, okay, let's do an interview. He agreed to it. We did the interview. And this was the interview that both of us did. And so I don't get it when he says, is he departing from the earlier comment he made or what?
Yeah.
But knowing very well that was what he told us before, I had to ask him that if it's the basis for which the 1.75 is being charged, will he advise that people stop using the momo then? Then he gave me an answer.
Listen to that too.
Human being, I would say, or no person likes to pay tax. In fact, it is a known fact that taxes are generally abhorred by people who are supposed to pay them. So what is happening is quite understandable. But to the extent that it's been used to gain some political points or it's been done for political expediency, for me, it's very unfortunate.
The concern is about the charges, and if it's one of the means, or if it's one of the means to which the money would be charged on, then maybe the option to Ghanaians would be to stop the using. Would you advise them to stop using?
I'll tell you something. I've always been saying that the momo tax is not a compulsory tax. You only pay when you use it. If you don't use it, you don't pay. So for me, there is no way any other procedure for making payments is going to equal momo. Right now, what we are saying is the tax is targeted at those who have the ability to pay, not those who are receiving. If you are receiving, it's okay to go and negotiate with a person who has gone to the bank to borrow money and be a momo agent to pay money out. Otherwise, keep the money on your phone and you don't pay nobody any money. And it is money targeted at those who want to use the service. Even if I stand here and tell people that, look, if you like, don't pay, or if you like, don't use momo, I tell you, using momo will be far cheaper. If you think using the momo service is difficult or expensive, you try taking your money out there and even see whether you lose some money on the way.
So that is Honorable Carlos Ahenkorah. And even after this interview, so yesterday there was a press release that was put out, and he said that this was a skewed headline by TV3 and cohorts in an interview that he granted them. He says that this was only seeking to project and position him for ridicule. And he says that, TV3 will choose an answer to a question posed as a headline and contort my words to sound irritating to their good viewership. Please ignore this mischief. So that's how he describes this, as mischief.
But he said in that interview, he said in that interview with me that keep the money on your phone and you don't pay anything. I don't know, I don't understand, but at least he has the right to also issue a statement. It's fine, but I think the good people of this country have listened to him very loud and clear, and they can decipher whether indeed there was a calculated attempt on our part to quote unquote do him in. The sound bites are there. I am even expecting, or I was suspecting that he would have come to say he is denying ever saying that people should not use momo and all that. But I mean, we've moved on. I mean, things will come. But I see him as a member of Parliament, and at any point in time that I need to have an interview with him, of course I will.
Definitely.
So it's not a problem. Then, in the course of the I think it was even within that same day. that Stephen Amoah had his issues. In fact, whilst I was doing this interview, I saw Stephen Amoah came through the main entrance to Parliament. He was in an all-white apron, a kaftan.
Okay.
I saw him. So whilst I was doing the interview, I asked my cameraman and then other colleague journalists to just approach him and tell him that we wanted to have a reaction from him because news was rife at the time that he had been arrested. The statement by the police was out and all that. So we needed to have an interview and he declined to. In fact, he looked very emotional and stressed.
Okay.
And we understood that, okay, fine, because of the condition in which he was, he didn't want to say anything and it's fine. So yesterday I saw him again. I had approached him together with other journalists and he said he was not going to make a comment on it because the matter is in court. He had gone to court and was saying a lot of stuff. So we understood it and didn't want to force an interview. So whilst we were there and the education minister was granting us an interview after responding to some issues on the floor, then Stephen Amoah had gone into the chamber and made a contribution to the World Anti-Corruption that was yesterday, and that statement was actually read by the whole West MP Emmanuel Bejra. So Stephen Amoah gave a contribution to it. In fact, this was actually at the blind side of almost all of us because we were at the press was outside doing an interview with the education
minister.
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Educho.
I see. Very interesting end to the week, I must say. But if you haven't seen that video yet of Stephen Amoah, former deputy CEO of Maslock, or was he the CEO?
No, he was actually the CEO.
The CEO of Maslock. Yes. Take a look at that.
What we are saying is that we agree together. We want to fight corruption, but in the attempt, some are doing better and some are doing better. However, whether we are doing 1% or 2%, all the regimes, whether NBC regime or MPP regime, corruption has been extremely inimical, dysfunctional, and it has given rise to a lot of higgledy-piggledy, mango, and then abracadabra. And I think it is time we all put all these things to a stop, and as a country begin to redefine new paradigm shift in fighting corruption. Thank you, Mr.
What did he say? Higgly me, mango.
I don't want to try. I know Giovanni's watching this show. I'll not try one bit. No. I'm not.
Giovanni and
Tiana watch it. I'm not going to try.
Anyway,
they can watch the video. I'm not going to say anything about it.
But that's how we wrap up. Yes, very interesting one, I must say. I mean, looking at what he's been through all week, I wasn't expecting that he'd go
and this was his
Parliament.
first comment as well.
Anyway, thank you so much, Komla Kluche, for speaking to us. Komla Kluche is our parliamentary correspondent here at TV3, and he brought us all the details as to what exactly we may have missed in Parliament throughout the week. And of course, you bring us more in the subsequent weeks. Keep watching. We have a guest that we haven't had on the show in quite a while. He's been out of Ghana for quite a while, and he's joining us on Hearts Bay with Cookie. And so look forward to that conversation. I can imagine how contentious it's going to be all over again. Keep watching. We'll be right back.